Hi, and welcome back to Mastering Anesthesia. Have you ever wondered why some inhalation agents knock out people faster than some others? The answer is in blood gas partition coefficient. But what does the number actually tell? Does it have to do with solubility and pressure? Stay tuned till the very end where we break down the concept of blood gas partition coefficient and hopefully, you will understand it a little bit better. So, let's go.
So, blood gas partition coefficient. This is a difficult topic to understand, but let's make this simple. Blood gas partition coefficient, thereafter abbreviated as BGPC, denotes the solubility of a gas in blood. As a general rule of thumb about solubility, so less soluble gas, less uptake by the blood, therefore faster onset. Remember this, less soluble, meaning that less uptake by the blood, faster onset. In other words, the principle behind this is when the gas is less soluble, it has greater partial pressure. This will contribute to the faster onset of a gas. Bear with me and let me walk you through the entire thought process, so stay till the end. So when we're inducing a patient with our gas, be it sevoflurane or desflurane, remember that the main objective of any inhalational anesthesia is so that we deliver to achieve a constant and adequate brain partial pressure of the given inhaled anesthesia. The gas reaches the brain through this circuit. It starts with a J machine. Through its circuit, will deliver the gas to the lungs. Through exchange of gases, the gas will dissolve in the blood, serves as a conduit to deliver the partial pressure to the brain. There are important terminologies for us to be aware and be accustomed with. So the first terminology here that I want to tell is the FI, or inspired gas concentration. Basically, is the concentration of gas in the fresh gas flow. Basically, it's what you dial on the machine. Say sevoflurane at 2%, you're delivering 2% at the FI, fresh gas flow. This can be measured at the tip of the ETT for easy understanding. Next, you have the F capital A, or alveolar gas concentration. Capital A will always resemble the alveolus. So this is the concentration of gas in the alveolus. This is what actually matters for uptake of gas into the blood. So Fa will slowly rise to catch up with Fi, which is the total concentration of gas delivered in the fresh gas flow. Clinically speaking, how you measure Fa? It's through the end tidal concentration of the gas. And then you have the F lowercase a, which stands for arterial gas concentration. It tells the concentration of gas in the blood. And this is what the brain feels. And it determines the depth of anesthesia. These compartments will equilibrate between one another, and it is not the concentration of the gas that equilibrates between compartments. It is the partial pressure of the inspired gas, of the alveolar gas, of the arterial gas with the partial pressure of the brain. So in my further explanation, I will talk in terms of the partial pressure. So what is the connection between the brain partial pressure and alveolar partial pressure? So let us have a look. The brain partial pressure will equilibrate with the arterial blood. We can write it as such: partial pressure of the brain equilibrates with arterial partial pressure. Next, the arterial blood equilibrates with the alveolar partial pressure. Similarly, it can be written as such: arterial partial pressure equilibrates with alveolar partial pressure. So, since the brain partial pressure equilibrates with the arterial partial pressure, which equilibrates with the alveolar partial pressure, therefore, partial pressure of the alveolus closely resembles partial pressure in the brain. Since the alveolar partial pressure closely resembles the partial pressure in the brain, it tells us a lot of information. Therefore, it is very important as a surrogate marker for many things. The alveolar partial pressure, by extension, tells us the depth of anesthesia, the recovery from anesthesia, and also the anesthetic equipotency or MAC. Before my explanation passes over someone said, let me clarify what equilibrate mean. It is when two phases or compartments were given time for them to reach equilibrium in which the two phases or compartments have the same partial pressure. Not concentration, but partial pressure. This is steady state. Let's do a quick recap with visual aids. You have the partial pressure of the brain, equilibrates with the arterial partial pressure, subsequently equilibrates with the alveolar partial pressure. Therefore, alveolar partial pressure resembles closely to the partial pressure of the brain. Let's take two theoretical compartments here. Two phases, phase A and phase B, are allowed to equilibrate. Here we have two compartments that have already equilibrated and in a steady state. You can see that both concentrations may not be the same, but they have equal partial pressure. By extending this knowledge to real phases in our body with the blood gas alveolus, so once we introduce the gas and allow them to equilibrate, we can see that both phases are achieve steady state when they have the same partial pressure. Soluble gas exerts smaller partial pressure. Let's see how it goes from this visual. When a gas is soluble, a greater concentration has to be dissolved in order for the two phases to achieve same partial pressure. You can see the phase on the right has greater concentration, but both have the same partial pressure. Poorly soluble gas exerts a greater partial pressure compared to soluble gas. Let's see how this compares. Only a small amount is able to dissolve, but this small concentration is able to exert the same partial pressure between the two phases. We've talked about how important the alveolar partial pressure is, but what increases or decreases its value? In this regard, we're talking about the determinants of alveolar partial pressure. We have the input, which is the delivery of gas into the alveolus, and also the output, which is the uptake of drug from the alveolus into the arterial blood, which is the loss. Delivery of gas to the alveolars is affected by the inhaled partial pressure, the number at the dial that we put, and the alveolar ventilation, as well as the breathing system. Meanwhile, the loss of alveolar partial pressure, which is the uptake of drug from the alveolus into the blood, is affected by the solubility of anesthetic in blood, the cardiac output, as well as alveolar venous partial pressure difference. But in this video, we are going to talk primarily on the solubility of anesthetic in blood, which is the whole concept of blood gas partition coefficient. So we've seen how partition coefficient being visualized, so we understand the solubility, partial pressure, but how do we describe it in technical terms? By definition, it is the distribution ratio of inhaled anesthetic between two phases at equilibrium. And steady state is when two phases have achieved the same partial pressure. So what does this all mean? So let's take a theoretical gas having blood gas partition coefficient of 0.5. So how does this work? So we have blood to gas ratio, focus on the blood. So when anesthetic gas has equilibrium between the blood and gas, both have the same partial pressure, the concentration of gas in the blood is 0.5 compared to that in the gas, or in our body, the alveolus. Visually, this is how it would look. The concentration of blood is half of that in the gas, where both have the same partial pressure, but concentration of blood is only 0.5 of that in the gas or alveolus. Now let's take another theoretical value. Let's say another gas has a blood gas partition coefficient of 2.0. Working out our problem the same way, we have the blood to gas concentration of inhaled anesthetic in the blood is 2 times of that compared to gas. Visually, you will see that the concentration will be more in blood 2 times compared to gas. And this is at steady state where both of these have the same partial pressure. Let us go through some of the blood gas partition coefficient of some popular gases and in anesthesia. You have xenon at 0.115, desflurane at 0.42, nitrous oxide at 0.47, sevoflurane at 0.68, isoflurane at 1.46, enflurane at 1.9, halothane at 2.54, and methoxyflurane at 12. Older classification will further divide this into poorly soluble gases, intermediate soluble gases, as well as soluble gas. Hot tips for remembering. For me personally, I remembered the commonly used anesthetic gases, desflurane, sevoflurane, and nitrous, being multiples of 2, 4, 2, 6, 8, with a miscellaneous 7. So desflurane at 0.42, sevoflurane at 0.68, and in between you have nitrous at 0.47. And my mistake, I'm terribly sorry, nitrous oxide is N2O and not NO2. Let me make the necessary corrections. So there you have it, blood gas partition coefficient. So thank you everyone. I hope you guys benefited from this video. Please subscribe, like, and comment down below. See you in my next video.
Thank you for watching. If you find these videos helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button to show your support. Comment down below what topic you want us to cover next. Till next time, see you in the next video.